Hi everyone, welcome to Making Messes. It's Dara here. So, sorry if you can hear all kinds of animal noises in the background. My cat is purring like a maniac and my puppy is whining because she wants to come in and play with all my paints, which obviously gets really messy. Anyway, today I wanted to share a flip of my big juicy junk journal because I've just finished the last page. And I love this book. This was, yeah, we're whimpering outside. So this is a book that I made through, which online workshop was it? I think it was Julie Fei-Fan Balzer. Yes, that's it. It was Julie Fei-Fan Balzer's junk journal e-course, which is brilliant. I love it. I've made loads of spares of this book, so I've got plenty to work in now that this is full. So without further ado, I'm just going to start flipping through and rambling on about the individual pages. So as you can see, my pages have actually fallen out, and thankfully this only happened right as I was about to start on the last page, and it's because I kind of balanced it precariously on a big piece of furniture and it just fell off and sort of smushed. So this is, as part of the workshop bundle, you get the how-to of how to create the book, and then also 30 days of example pages in Julie's journal. And she does these amazing pages that actually include daily journaling. So for a while I tried to experiment with that and did some actual journaling, but then I just sort of gave up on that because it's not something I actually like to do in my journals. Oh my god, this page is definitely stuck together, isn't it? Oh dear. Well, bye bye to that page. That's clearly closed when the dimensional paint was still a bit tacky. But you know what, it's part of the charm of one of these books. It doesn't matter if it's chunky or torn or whatever. So you'll see, like, after a couple of spreads I just started going back to doing my normal kind of stuff, which is just sort of messy art play and less of the actual journaling, because I tend to do that just in a usual, like, typical notebook. I really like this one. So this one was inspired by this lesson in when I was doing my art A level. So we did this session on drawing with scissors, where you just sort of cut out different shapes from a piece of paper and use those to create a design rather than drawing something out. So these were all done freehand and then stuck down on a funky background. And I really quite like the effect of that. So this one, I did do a tiny little bit of journaling here, but it was sort of done separately and then stuck in just because I felt like I wanted something to go there, and also I had some of this shimmery tape to use up. So you'll notice that a lot of the background pages are completely just random and mismatched, and that's one of the really cool things about this book. And you'll see how, so here was some like painted on brown paper and some strips of watercolour paper. This was some scrapbook paper. This was a section from a magazine. And you'll see how, like, by painting across the whole thing, it doesn't really matter that it was done on a bunch of different surfaces, because the colours and the patterns and the shapes and the doodles, they all kind of unify that. Sorry, she's being such a little diva out there. And another way to do that is to sort of pull out some of the colours that might be in your background to start with. So for example, this piece of paper already had a little bit of purple, it already had a little bit of yellow, and I sort of brought that in more across the page to give it a bit of a whole effect. And this was when I was going through a phase of just thinking that I couldn't draw faces at all, so I kind of just did a weird mannequin image there, but I quite like it. Now this was, again, I was going through a phase of thinking, oh my god, I can't draw anything. So I just did random paint splotches and random doodles with a paint pen and kept it pretty simple. Because, and again here, like, sometimes you just have those days where you you feel like you can't create some kind of beautiful art, which is fine, you know, it happens. Again here, I think I was playing with a lot of black paint at this point, and obviously that meant I always had a lot of black paint left on my palette, so you'll see more pages further on where I've had to like sort of use it up. Now this, I don't know if you can see it very well on camera, but this is really chunky and it's got a lot of texture here. So these are all little flowers and circles cut from my paint palettes. So I use different kind of palettes, but at this time I'd been using paper plates. Have I got any glue? No, I haven't. I'll just have to leave that tucked in there. So I was using paper plates for my paint palettes, and I always was loath to throw them away just because they looked all colourful and chunky and cool. So I decided to cut out a few shapes, add a few doodles and stick them down on here just so I could collect some of that colour. And then here I was doing the drawing with scissors thing again to create this mandala. And I kind of replicated that sort of design in some doodles over here. And I really was going through a black and white doodly phase here. I always think it's funny when you flip back through a journal, because I have this thing where I'll get one technique in my mind and then just want to do it again and again and again and again. And so you can see those patterns as I flip back through the pages. Now I love this page. This was like such a mindless page to do. It was just really zen. Again, this was like doodly fun. I think I just sat in front of the TV with this and just drew a few lines. This one I really love, so I just bought some masking fluid. So I did a few doodles and then went over with a ton of like really bright watercolour paint. And after I peeled it off, I just really loved that effect. And more TV doodles. So again, you can see that the backgrounds were all completely different. So that was an inky postcard, that was some book paper, that was like a brown paper bag. And just by doing funky doodles all over the whole thing, you can't really tell. More doodles. I do wonder what I was binge watching while I was doing all of these, because they're definitely my kind of TV doodles where I don't have to focus on my art. I really like these stars. Super simple, and they probably took me minutes, but it's a really satisfying page. More TV doodles. That's like a random arty quote. So, and I found this flower in a magazine and wanted to keep it somewhere, so that's how this page came to be. I'd also just bought this coppery paint, so obviously I wanted to play with that a little bit. So here you can see how I kind of replicated the pattern from this envelope. This, I can fit things in here if I want to. On this side of the page, and then some like really stark black and white here for added contrast. This is a kind of just randomness page. I was in a bit of a creative funk and I just used it to use up some odd bits of washi tape and leftover paint and leftover paper scraps. So you'll recognise these from the book paper mandala I did a few pages back. And I just wanted to use them up somewhere. So this one this is a page from, I have this old planner that's just got loads of photography, like vintage photos of Paris. And so this section is just a page from that, and you can still see here the rough edge where it was torn from the binding. And I just really liked these images of the dancing figures, so I left them as the focal point and just did painty doodly things in the background to mute out the rest. And here, I don't know if you can see that this is a glossy page. This is like I think the back cover of an old magazine. But I really liked the colours behind, and I also liked that it says Rosalie on it. That's my dog's name. And so I just doodled a fun sort of mandala-y, floral-y kind of thing with some Sharpies, and then filled in the spaces with some leftover black paint from an earlier page. But again, this is like really simple and really fun to do and just really satisfying. And again here, this is me using up lots of my black paint. Now I really love this one. I'm not an orange person at all, but I really like this combination of the orange and the turquoise. That makes me really, really happy. Oh, and this page, I was clearing out some of my scraps and I found this old like paper snowflake that I'd used as some kind of mask or stencil last year when I was making some really quick Christmas wrapping paper because I'd run out. And it had all of these like ink spray stains on it, and I just thought it belongs on that page. I didn't want to throw it away, but I didn't really have anywhere to keep it, so I thought just to glue it down somewhere. Now, so this doodle started off again as a way for me to use up some of that leftover black paint, and I just added a few little doodles with a paint pen and some of this neon pink that I had left over as well. Again, I really like this colour combination. I'm really liking like turquoise matched with neons at the moment. And more eccentric doodles. I feel like this page isn't done. This feels like a background to me, like I should be adding something else on here. I don't know. Oh, now this is super, like, I don't even think you can even see this properly on camera, but this is super textured and super grungy. Like, there are so many layers of paint and collage on here that you can hardly even, I've got no idea how this page even started, because there is not a single scrap of bottom layer left on it. But I think I do quite like it. I really like this one as well. So I like the kind of off-white grunginess and the pink and the yellow. I think that's a really cool combination. And I love including bits of book paper. So sometimes I'll doodle on it like that, or sometimes I'll paint on it. I don't usually have anything that's just stark book paper stuck on a page. I kind of like to make it into a bit of a layer. And this is another example of my TV doodles. So obviously I took inspiration from this bit here, which was a zebra print, and I just replicated that across the page. And this one, this is kind of another example of me using up some leftover paint. So in this case I had a load of white left on my palette, and so I just blocked out some shapes, and then I used my finger to just do some dots and then doodled in those. And again, it's like quite simple, quite funky, but I do like it. Using up some leftover black, and I'd used these two cards as masks in a completely different journal, and I had them lying around, so I just thought I'll stick them in the middle and make them kind of a bit of a focal point. I don't love how it looks, but I quite like the contrast and the grunginess. And here's where I started going through a seriously doodly phase. I started working on a bunch of really like messy painty backgrounds and just doodling mandalas, and then adding some highlights with a white Posca pen. So you'll see a few more pages like that soon. Here are a few more like experiments with grunge and with book paper. So quite like, this is a little bit of an abstract bouquet or something. But again, these are shapes that were left over from that cut out mandala that I did earlier on, and I just had them lying around on my desk, so I thought use them up instead of throwing them away. Here, more of that copper paint. Again, this is a case of having stuff left over on my palette and trying to find a way to use it up. Same with this page. I've been working on a different project that involved a lot of pink, and so I just put it down on this, what was a turquoise and kind of a grey-green kind of background. Here are a couple more examples of that painted background, mandala doodles and white accents. Now I really love this one. I love that you can kind of see this like imperfect print behind the doodles. So that's when I think I was cleaning off a stencil or something and I just pressed it down on this page. But I really like all of that, the colours in that. And here I was experimenting with using a slightly chunkier permanent marker to do the doodles, and I didn't have a black one. My black ones tend to run out fairly quickly because I use them a lot, so I used blue. And while I was doing it I wasn't sure that I liked it, but actually I quite like the contrast with the yellows and the oranges. I think that looks quite good. And that's it. The back page, I really need to bind that back together. So this is my junk journal. I'll quickly show you the back. That is finally done with, and I'm going to have to start anew. Luckily I do have a couple that I've made already, so here's one option, and you'll see that it's just full of all kinds of random pages. And then here's another one. So again, lots of random pages on the inside. And I quite like that this is some of my messy under paper that's been stuck to the cover. Haven't decided which one I'm going to use yet, but if you have a preference, turquoise stars or cool henna hands, then please leave me a comment below. If not, then you'll have to wait and see which one I pick, and I'll be back to share more creativity soon. So see you later. Bye.